did try to get answers on the measures Israel had taken to protect children in densely populated areas during military operations in accordance with international humanitarian law. The application of weapons with wide area effects in residential buildings, houses, where multi-generational family lives, raises certainly concerns about the protection of civilians and of all children. All children are, of course, civilians. We did not get any sufficient answers to this. And I think the figures speak for themselves. I don't think we can identify any particular measure that has been taken to save children's lives in this military operation in Gaza.
Follow-up, has the Israeli delegation shows any intention to accept or maybe to follow your recommendations? Thank you.
I would say we were encouraged by the fact that they came and that we managed to have a conversation. And at the same time, we realized that at times we were talking past one another. So although traditionally this type of interaction is called a constructive dialogue, a dialogue does require listening and engaging. And there were certainly moments where it was clear that the answers had been prepared before. In fact, on the very point of to what extent the measures in Gaza were disproportionate. For example, there was someone from an official from their legal department who was very knowledgeable about international humanitarian law requirements. So they had their answers, but they were not, in our view, facing up to the reality that 17,000 children are dead, and that there have been repeated attacks on schools and on hospitals. Of course, they made the usual points that there are tunnels beneath these buildings, etc. So we heard all of that. But I think what we kept on driving home is just the fact that this is a scale that is completely out of proportion. And so it's hard to understand how the principle of proportionality is being followed under these circumstances. And I think a further issue was that in the end, when hopefully this war is over, all of the rebuilding that has got to happen, all of the recovery that is going to have to happen. Because of the fact that that is all ahead of us, it wasn't possible for us to get into the detail of what that would require. But at some time in the future, that has to be faced by Israel and by the world.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Musa Asi, Al Mayrin TV, Arabic news channel based in Lebanon. Can you give us, please, an idea about the number of children killed or wounded or arrested in Gaza and in West Bank from October 7? Thank you.
Well, this is a difficult question. The latest confirmed figure that we were working with was between 16 and 17,000 children. The Palestinian authorities have submitted a list with the names of between 13 and 14,000, I believe. But we know that there are many children that are buried under the rubble in Gaza. Nobody knows, of course, how many, so the figure can be a lot higher. And it will take a long time to find this out. We were informed of an estimate of that it would take about 15 years just to clean up the rebels in Gaza. And this means that we are not likely to find bodies, all the bodies, until after some years, to be able to establish exactly how many deaths there are. So this is the reality.
Did you have a... Yes, Tamer?
Yeah, about the detention, children Palestinian detention in West Bank and Gaza, and if you have also an idea about the number of children killed in Israeli side or arrested. You spoke about 2 children. Can I know the age of these 2 children? Thank you.
Well, those 2 children, Ariel and Kafir, who were kidnapped, if those are the 2 children you're referring to, they were babies when they were arrested, kidnapped. And so they've been in captivity for almost a year now. So actually one of the points that was made is that they've spent more time in captivity than they had lived before, at least the youngest one had. And with regard to the number of children who've been killed and who were detained, we do have those figures. I don't have them right in front of me now, but I can certainly provide them to you afterwards.
Thank you very much. Dima, did you have a follow-up? Thank you. Any further questions in the room? Otherwise, we will take questions online. I see a question from Isabel from FA.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I am Isabel Saco with the Spanish News Agency. I would like to ask you, please, to go back a little bit on what you said or you explained before. And my question on this sense is, if during the 6 hours of discussions with the Israeli delegation, at any moment, at any point of this discussion, there was any recognition of the obligation by the State of Israel on the protection of children in the occupied Palestinian territories. At any moment, they recognize that they are responsible for that on their well-being and protection. Thank you.
To respond to this question, I can only say that Israel did admit to its obligation under international humanitarian law, and but they did not, as I said earlier, in my view and our view, provide us with sufficient information that led us to believe that they had taken any measures to avoid death, to preserve life in Gaza.
In a more general way, they did express that it is regrettable that so many children have died.
Thank you very much. In the room, Dina, yeah, go ahead.
A follow-up about the children, Palestinian children in detention. Do you have, we received many reports talking about them. They are facing, due to those reports, violence, sexual violence, famine, and this is systematic according to those reports. Do you have more details about this, please?
Yes, we actually did receive information from lawyers that are representing children. And for a long period of time, whilst in detention, children don't have access to lawyers. But what we were told that is that when lawyers are reaching them, the children are in a very poor state. They are, these adolescents, of course, are terrified, and they're suffering from scabies, which is a disease that you get from living in unhygienic conditions, which causes the skin to itch. And they, are also not able to see their families during this period of time.
Houses they're placed, and so children got in traumatic situation. And the second question is about legislation of Armenia, because I saw that in the review of the committee there is something written about Armenian legislation, that Armenian legislation still didn't ban corporal punishment in all settings. I would like to know, have you raised this issue before the Armenian authorities, and are there any specific deadlines for revising the legislation in this regard? Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. So the committee, when it reviews Azerbaijan, will put these questions to Azerbaijan. Obviously, we were aware of the impacts of what you've been discussing on Armenian children, and that was raised, and it was part of the discussion. With regard to children, the corporal punishment of children, it was one of the issues that the committee focused on, and we have urged the government to take immediate measures to end the use of corporal punishment in all settings, and to also provide complaints mechanisms so that children can complain, particularly in schools and in alternative care settings. And we also believe that the government must invest in campaigns to change the attitude about the use of physical punishment on children in Armenia.
Thank you very much, Ms. Skelton. Gabriela?
Thank you so much. Do you know if the ICRC has access to Palestinian children who are in detention in Israel? Are you aware of that? Thank you.
I'm afraid we can't answer that question, and when we receive reports from the ICRC, they're usually confidential.
Thank you. Are there any further questions in the room? I do not see any. We have a question online. Nick Cumming-Bruce, The New York Times.
Yeah, thank you. I just wonder if you could come back on Israel, whether you got any substantive engagement with the Israeli delegation on the allegations of the torture of children in detention. Was there any substantive discussion on that? Was there any acknowledgement by them of a need to investigate and process that? Yeah, thank you.
It was certainly amongst the questions that we raised. There was no acknowledgement, but I think that their response generally is that the detention facilities are under some kind of reporting process or some kind of monitoring process. We are pushing them, though, in our concluding observations to make that far more objective and independent, so that there needs to be an independent monitoring process for all children in detention.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions in the room? I do not see any. We do not have any further questions online. Let me just check again. Okay, so with that, I think we can conclude the press conference. Thank you very much to the committee members for being with us today. Thank you so much for coming, those of you in the room and online. Have a good rest of the afternoon.
Recording stopped.